This is Calm AF, a podcast for humans who are hard on themselves. A podcast for the overthinkers, people pleasers, perfectionists, and overachievers. I'm Kristen Finch, and I'm going to teach you how to quiet that incessant negative chatter in your head. Because you know what a person with a calm mind can do? Anything they want. Grab your coffee, gorgeous soul, because today's the day you get Calm AF.
Hello, gorgeous souls. So today is recording day, and I'm sure you can hear we are getting a new roof. So it's very loud. We're going to do a throwback episode, but not just any throwback episode. I actually just listened to it in the car this morning after I dropped Parker off at work. This is one of my favorite episodes ever, because in it, I am sharing one of my favorite coaching stories, one of the most impactful stories of my entire career. So make sure you listen all the way until the end, because I also have a little bit of an announcement you are going to want to hear. Without further ado, here is the episode.
There's a funny thing about my work. My mission truly is to be able to teach people how to step into that calm AF energy as often as possible in their lives, which doesn't mean they just walk around feeling calm all the time. It's to be able to embody calm while you're going through difficult situations. So this is the funny part. The more I see the value in really learning this skill, the more I have to work myself at remaining calm about it. Because sometimes it feels really urgent. Sometimes I just want to grab people by the face and say, hey, don't you see? Don't you see what waiting to really invest in yourself is costing you? Don't you see that just surviving your life, going through the motions, waiting for the next lull in the storm is not actually a sustainable plan for your life? But here's why people drag their feet. Whether it's investing in a coach or finding a therapist or leaving a relationship that isn't working or setting boundaries, there's so much clutter they have to sort through before they will actually do the thing versus just thinking about the thing. And I want to talk about that today. I want you to feel calm AF about your life and also have an understanding that there is an urgency to it. So it reminds me of a story. One of my very first clients, she might be the first one. I don't trust my memory anymore. But one of my very first clients was a wonderful woman. I will call her Nellie. So Nellie came to me. Why? The same reason lots of people come to me is because they're tired, not just physically tired, but physically tired, emotionally tired, mentally tired. She had spent her entire life, like 5+ decades, trying to be who everyone else needed her to be. She was tired, she felt heavy, and she wanted to make a lot of external changes in her life, but she'd been at this a while. She'd been trying to make the external changes, and she had learned along the way, as most of you have. This is why this is why my clients end up coming to me, because they're like, I've tried that didn't work. Like, she tried just changing her body or decluttering her house or whatever it was, but that only made her feel better temporarily. It was kind of like that instant gratification of a clean house, but then to reaccumulate 3 weeks later. She always ended up back feeling tired, overwhelmed, heavy. And what's worse is, like, on top of that, now every time she did that, every time she came back to the same old patterns, then she shamed herself for it. Like, I should be able to do this. I should know better. So Nellie and I got to work. And really the first thing we did, and this is often the first thing I do with my clients, is she started changing the way she spoke to herself. The voice in her head, right? The voice in her head had to get nicer if she was going to change anything permanently, because it was the self-shame and the self-doubt that made her quit on herself or give up. So we started there. She started noticing that just by doing this, she was feeling better. She was feeling lighter and calmer and less what I call whiplashy, which is the word I use to describe the sensation of how most people move through the ups and downs of their life. Like, it's good, it's bad, it's good, it's bad. It's kind of like this back and forth whiplash. Everything's happening, nothing's happening. She started realizing that being herself unapologetically was actually way easier than trying to make it appear that she was herself, right? You know what I mean when I say this. She had spent so much time trying to control other people's opinions about her and her family, like saying things to impress them, agreeing with them, placating them, that she always felt exhausted, also resentful. This is often what comes after the exhausted. Because here's the thing, trying to stay in character, you can't see me using air quotes, but I'm using them, in character, for your entire life is a lot. And she realized that even though it was weird at first, and not everybody liked it, not everyone was like all on board with Nellie speaking her truth, she felt so much lighter and freer because it was just easier. It is so much easier to be yourself than to always be thinking about what you're supposed to be. She stopped overthinking all the worst case scenarios and just started trusting herself. Like, hey, if that worst case scenario happens, I'm going to be able to handle it because I trust myself. Right? And she realized that all of the worrying and the overthinking was simply stealing moments of her life. And the people around her started noticing. She stopped hustling for her worth and started really learning what she liked, what made her happy. And she just started adding more of that. So we worked together on her body, her marriage, her home, her work, her friendships, right? Like all of the things that we touch in our lives. And she lightened up about her goals, which is a big thing that I often talk to my clients about is like, we're just going to lighten up about this. This isn't an emergency. And she stopped trying to rush her growth. She really fully soaked in all of it. Instead of going through the motions, Nellie was really showing up and living her life. And then she got sick. She went to the doctor. And it ended up being one of those worst case scenarios, cancer, and not the kind you treat or beat, the kind that you just go home and make the most of what time you have left. So our next session ended up being our last official coaching session. It was sad. We were both in shock and just, it was awful. And a few weeks later, she reached out again and asked if we could just have a check-in call, just a friend's checking in, not a coaching call. So I called her and she just sounded so tiny. I remember that. She just sounded so tiny. The same sweet, gorgeous soul, just quieter. There was like a very calm to her. It was like, that is what I felt the most. And I will never, ever, ever forget this conversation. I remember everything about it. I remember where I was sitting, what I was wearing, the weather that day. She told me that of course she was sad. Of course she didn't want to die. But the words she said to me strengthened my passion in my mission and continue to, because I think about this all the time. She said, you know, Kristen, I worked with you so that really I could learn how to live. But I had no idea it was going to help me to die. We talked for hours that day, how proud she was of herself that she hadn't waited until the worst case happened to really learn how to feel alive while she was alive. You know, and that's really the big thing is like, are you alive while you're alive? And she was so proud of herself for not waiting. Like she had years now that she had been living this way. And then she learned she was dying and she was like, hey, listen, I learned how to live. That's what I was here for. She mentioned that so many people she knew that had died, she would talk about how their wake-up call came after something really bad happened. And Nellie felt super proud that she hadn't waited for that. And now with the wake-up call, she wasn't having to fight, she wasn't having to fight with regrets of, oh, if I had known this was coming, I would have done things differently. She didn't have to do that. She just got to be in the process. And most people have heard the 5 regrets of the dying. The number one number one most common regret of a person who is actively dying was wishing that they had the courage to live a life that was true to themselves, not the life that other people expected them to live. And that was what Nellie was so proud of, that she didn't have that regret. She had made the bold decision years before that she didn't want to get to that place where she was dying and regretting. So she took action. The other regrets, by the way, are I wish I hadn't worked so much. I wish I would have expressed myself more. I wish I would have nurtured my friendships. And I wish I would have just let myself be happier. That's a big one too. Like everyone thinks like, I just have to be stressed out. Like, no, actually you could just let yourself lighten up. You could let yourself be calm, even when things are hard. Anyway, I come back to this conversation with Nellie a lot because what I see is people thinking they have all the time in the world to live their lives. And listen, I hope you do. I hope every single person, myself and all of the people listening, have all of the time plus some, okay? And I hope it's not coming off as morbid or doomsday. My intention is truly just to spark the truth you already know, okay? And to share, I want to share 3 things that I learned from Nellie. I also learned it from losing Mike, from speaking to people who have chosen not to wait until they get a wake-up call, okay? I want to share these things with you. I want you to take these away with you today. First, there will always be a reason not to prioritize your mental well-being or your emotional well-being. Always. Until the end of time, there will always be some other thing that seems to be more important than you, okay? And your happiness. It seems frivolous when I have a roof to fix. It seems frivolous when I have college tuitions to pay, right? We've been programmed to think about what's the most responsible thing to spend our time, money, and energy on. The things that matter on the outside, right? The new roof is more important than me feeling this way. My kid will be going to college soon. That's more important. I just need to get these projects finished. I need to get these kids older. I need this partner happier. And then I can take time for myself. I can really prioritize my well-being, no matter what that looks like. Okay? I promise there will always be a reason or something that seems more important. And I want to remind you, there's not. You don't work, none of this works. Second, no one is going to give you permission or clear the way for you to make the choice to take care of yourself. No one's going to, take time out of their schedule to make sure you have the time to really be focusing on your well-being. Not because they don't love you, okay? Even the people who love us the most, they're inside their heads too. They don't know what it sounds like in your head. They don't know how stuck you feel, how overwhelmed, how resentful, how hopeless it can sometimes feel. And even if they did, here's the thing I want you to hear. Even if they did, you deciding to be alive while you're alive has to be up to you. It can't be someone else's idea. I've had so many people that have reached out to me that want to give someone else in their lives coaching. I was like, no way. It's not going to work. Has to be your idea. It has to be what you want. That is something. So really, it's like you have to give yourself permission to put yourself first. No one else is going to do that for you. That's something Nellie and I talked about during that afternoon conversation. She said something like, I just kept waiting and waiting for when my child was old enough. I kept hoping my, partner would see how much I was struggling and just like, Nellie, go and get this life coach. Nellie, go and why don't you just go hang out with your friends, right? Or the money, right? There was always something else. And so I think when you get to that realization of like, there's never going to be the right time and no one else is going to lay this perfect path for you. It might look messy, but if you don't give yourself permission, no one else will. The third thing that I have taken away from all of this is we aren't meant to do this work in isolation. I cannot tell you how many people I talk to that tell me, I know what to do, I'm just not doing it. or they shame themselves. Like, I know better. I should have figured this out by now. This is one of the most toxic lies we tell ourselves, that we should somehow be able to do this self-work on our own. The problem is we don't see our own shit when we're in it. We lean towards believing the thoughts we think. Most people truly believe almost every thought they think, myself absolutely included. I've gotten super good at being the supervisor of my own brain, but I miss my own blind spots all the time. One of my favorite coaches always says to me, like, I will be going on about something that I'm getting coached on, and I will finally take a breath, and she'll be like, you see it, right? I'm like, no, it can't be this again. But this is how brains work. We're not supposed to do this on our own. We need help. We need help. And we don't get to the end of our life and win a prize for struggling alone, right? Stop it with the virtuous nonsense. Women especially, listen, actually, I'm not going to say that. Women and men, humans, we aren't supposed to do this on our own. And I will say this, because some people are like, well, I have a really great support group of friends. Don't use your friends or families to get you this level of support. Really, when you're going from, taking a struggling, stuck mindset to a different way of thinking, your friends and families, as much as they love you, they're just going to agree with you. They're not going to point out your blind spots. Find a coach, find a therapist, find a community that you don't need to be on, that you don't need to be in character for. Find those people and be with them. See how it feels. There was a woman that I followed years ago on Instagram. Her username was Whippy Cake, and she had been diagnosed with cancer a few times before I found her. And the last time, it was the same sort of thing as Nellie. She knew she wasn't getting better. She was just hoping to prolong as long as she could to stay with the people she loves so much. And you guys have heard me talk about this poem before. I have posted it a million times. I've memorized it. I'm obsessed with it. And here is the poem. I want you to really stop and hear this. We will not sip these days through straws. We will gulp and chug until we sputter, breathless and smiling. I just feel that in my bones. We aren't here to go through the motions. But going through the motions, hoping something will change, isn't the best game plan. This is the part where I have to coach myself on being calm about my mission, because it feels urgent. Don't wait until your wake-up call. Live the true life you are here to live, not the one you think you're supposed to. All right? That's all I got to say about that. They are finally done. My brain feels like it's been rattled all the way. I'm so glad they're done. All right, gorgeous soul. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you enjoyed the story as much as I enjoyed it then and again today. Like, every time I think about this, it reminds me of why I do what I do. And I hope that today it gave you a little fire under your butt. It's not so that you have to hurry up and change everything, right? Because what's true is that transformation happens in a sustainable way when we just take it slow and we let ourselves become the person we're becoming. It's not about the fast changes, but I think getting started, that is something that you can just do quickly. The decision to start, there's a little bit of urgency there. Again, not because something bad's going to happen if you don't start right now, but what you can guarantee is that nothing will happen until you decide to get started. If you are ready, if this story has shifted you the way it has shifted me, I really encourage you to get in Calm AF Life. It is about to go through a makeover. We are changing the whole feel of the program. It's going to kind of become a little bit more intimate. We're adding breakout groups instead of big open coaching calls. We are adding a one-on-one personalized call with everyone who joins so that when you start, you have a plan. You and I create together a plan so that you know exactly what to work on, exactly what to focus on for those first 90 days. And then once you're started, then, we can play around with it in your group. So that's being added. The lifetime access is being eliminated. Starting in September, we are not going to be a program that you get for life. There is going to be an end date. There is a very good reason behind this. What I found is that it felt a little overwhelming, and a lot of people just kind of were putting it off because, oh, well, I'll just get to it later. So that lifetime access is going away. If this is something that you want to have lifetime access to, which I highly recommend, I would suggest joining now. In the show notes, there is going to be a link to join. If you're just like, yes, I'm in, you're like, today is the day I'm deciding, there's a link to join. If you would like to hop on a call with me or send me a message and ask some questions, see if it's a good fit, there is also a link to do that in the show notes. So either way, start today. Whatever you do, do something today. Don't wait for your wake-up call. Don't wait for the circumstances to get easier. I promise you will not regret starting today. I love you so much. I will see you next time.